The newest twist in the Timothée Chalamet backlash is not another joke, not another drag online, and not another headline asking whether his image is falling apart. It is something quieter than that and, in some ways, a lot more interesting. One of the people around him just said, "The things celebrities usually never want said out loud in public. Be more careful next time." That is what makes this moment feel different from the last round of coverage, because once people in your own orbit start talking like that, the story stops feeling like random noise and starts feeling like damage control. It starts sounding like even the friendly voices know a line was crossed. And that is why this story still has life even after the Oscars mockery already made the rounds. The joke phase was obvious. The backlash phase was obvious. What comes after that is where things get revealing. That is when people either double down, disappear, or begin quietly adjusting the narrative around the celebrity. In Timothy's case, that shift may already be happening. Before we go deeper, let me know in the comments whether you think this whole thing has been blown way out of proportion, or whether Timothée really did need a wake-up call here. And if you like celebrity stories with the extra context people miss, stay with me, because the details after the backlash may be the most telling part.
So I think that maybe he got a little too relaxed and maybe he spoke out of turn, or he said something that landed wrong.
The most important name in this version of the story is Fran Drescher. She did not go scorched earth. She did not join the pylon. She did not act like Timothée was doomed. She actually defended him in a way, calling him kind and making it clear she does not think this will permanently hurt his career. But right in the middle of that support came the line that changed the tone. She said he would be more careful next time. That is not the language of someone saying there was no problem. That is the language of someone gently admitting there absolutely was a problem, and that the people around him know he now has to move differently. What makes that hit so hard is who it came from. Fran Drescher is not some angry critic from far away. She is linked to his current film world. So when she says something that sounds part supportive and part corrective, it lands with a lot more weight than another opinion piece or another social media reaction. It feels closer to the source. It feels like one of those moments where Hollywood says the quiet part in a very polished way. They are not burying him. They are not turning on him. But they are signaling that this kind of casual talk is no longer harmless for someone at his level. That is the part that makes this worth a whole separate video.
He meant for it to be received the way it did. But you know what? You live, you learn. He's young and he's very much in the spotlight. And I think that you have to realize that, the adoration that you get could easily turn on a dime.
Because the truth is, the original controversy is no longer even the most interesting part. Everyone already knows the broad outline. Timothée made those remarks during a February town hall appearance with Matthew McConaughey. And the line about people not caring about ballet and opera anymore spread fast. He tried to soften it, but the internet had already clipped the sentence that would follow him everywhere. That part is old news now. What matters more is what happened after. The reaction got big enough that it pulled in artists, major institutions, award show jokes, and now these soft public corrections from people near him. That is how a comment turns from messy to meaningful.
If I provided a home for my child through artist housing so that he was able to live in Hell's Kitchen and pursue his dreams, after I pursued my dreams of it being a New York City ballerina, of dancing on Broadway, of going to Yale on a ballet scholarship, and he looks me in my eyeballs through a TV screen and says that my art form is a dying art form that no one cares about anymore, the level of audacity you have to look at the art form that literally made you able to pursue TV film, that made you able to live in New York City and witness art on a day-to-day basis, to have the connections that you have, to say that that is an art form that no one cares about anymore.
One reason this kept growing is because the backlash did not stay trapped inside gossip spaces. It crossed into the arts world in a way that gave it a lot more credibility. When dancers, opera voices, and major arts figures push back, the story stops feeling like fans just being dramatic. It starts looking like a real criticism of tone and attitude. Misty Copeland was one of the strongest examples of that. Her response gave the backlash a face that carried real weight. She was not doing empty outrage. She was defending the value of these art forms and reminding people that ballet and opera are part of the same creative ecosystem. Actors benefit from all the time. But here's where it gets even more layered. After all that tension, Timothée later gave Misty Copeland a standing ovation at the Oscars. Now, people can read that a few different ways. Some will say it was classy and respectful, which is fair. Others will look at it and wonder whether it was also a quiet reset, a subtle way of showing public respect after days of looking dismissive toward the very world she was defending. That ambiguity is what makes the moment useful in a script like this. It is not a screaming scandal. It is something more slippery. It is image repair that may or may not be intentional, which often makes viewers lean in harder. And then the irony got worse for him. Just when the whole ballet angle already looked bad enough, a childhood clip resurfaced showing 6-year-old Timothée in a ballet production of Romeo and Juliet. That changed the energy again, because now the person being criticized for sounding dismissive about ballet was suddenly being shown as a child literally participating in ballet. The internet loves that kind of contradiction. It turns a bad quote into a receipt. It gives the story a second visual life. It also makes the backlash feel more embarrassing, because it suggests this was not some distant world he knew nothing about. It was part of the atmosphere around him long before he became a movie star. That resurfaced clip matters for another reason too. It gives the whole controversy a kind of symbolic feel. This is not just about one man saying one careless thing. It becomes a story about memory, class, art, image, and how celebrities sometimes drift so far into their own press cycles that they forget what their own history looks like to everybody else. Timothée has been sold for years as thoughtful, cultured, and more artistically tuned in than the average celebrity heartthrob. That image is exactly why this landed so badly. If someone already known for chaos says something careless, people shrug. When someone marketed as refined says it, people call it hypocrisy. There is also the fact that the backlash moved into meme territory, which is when a controversy becomes harder to control. Los Angeles' Music Center started promoting discounted ballet tickets with the code Chalamet. Think about what that means for a second. This was no longer just outrage. It had become branding material. It had become a punchline institutions could use to sell seats. And once your quote starts getting recycled that way, you lose control over how the story lives in public. It stops belonging to you. It becomes a running joke with commercial afterlife. That is a rough place for any star to be, especially one whose image has always relied on being seen as tasteful and self-aware. At the same time, not everyone was eager to bury him, and that part actually makes the whole thing more believable. Kevin O'Leary defended Timothée and said he took a bum rap. That matters, because it shows the people around this project were not all scrambling in the same direction. Some were smoothing it over, some were publicly supportive, some were clearly trying to frame this as overreaction rather than a serious character issue. And that split is useful because it creates tension instead of making the story flat. Is Timothée a victim of overblown backlash? Or is he a star finally learning that his words get treated differently now? That is the real argument underneath everything. I think that is why Fran Drescher's comment may end up being the line people remember most. Not because it was brutal, it was not. Not because it was dramatic, it really was not. It may stick because it sounded calm, adult, and oddly final. She was not feeding the fire, she was summarizing the lesson. He will be more careful next time. That is almost what a manager, mentor, or concerned co-star would say after a public stumble everyone is trying to move past without pretending it never happened. It sounds like the sentence that gets used behind closed doors when people are trying to protect the star, but also make sure the message lands.
Timothée Chalamet and Kylie Jenner left the Oscars early after several people made fun of him during the show. During the Oscar ceremony, Conan O'Brien joked about the situation. Later on, Conan spoke to Timothée again. Conan said, "We're vibing, right?" He then told the people watching that Timothée did not think so.
And that brings us to the bigger issue. This is no longer really a story about whether Timothée Chalamet is in trouble in the dramatic career-ending sense. He is not. He still has huge projects. He still has plenty of fans. He still has industry support. The more interesting question is whether this marks the point where he stops getting automatic grace. That is a much bigger shift than one controversy. Once a star loses that special buffer, Every future interview gets watched more closely. Every joke gets broken down harder. Every offhand line becomes a possible headline. Not because the person changed overnight, but because the audience did. That is why I would argue the warning matters more than the mocking ever did. The mocking was loud. It was obvious. It made for easy titles. The warning is quieter, but it tells you more. It suggests that even supportive people recognized this was not a great look, and that the smartest move now is not to fight harder, but to tighten up. To watch the phrasing. To stop handing critics free material. To remember that when you are seen as one of the most polished actors of your generation, people expect more than a throwaway line that makes whole art communities feel dismissed. That is a harder lesson than any awards show joke. So maybe the real headline here is not that Timothée Chalamet is finished, canceled, or spiraling. It is that the people around him are starting to sound like they know he needs a reset. A softer touch in interviews. Fewer careless one-liners. More awareness of how fast a joke can turn into a narrative. That may not sound explosive, but in celebrity terms, it is a major shift. Because once the cleanup phase begins, the old version of the image is already under pressure. Let me know what you think. Was Fran Drescher giving genuine advice? Or was that quiet warning more revealing than people want to admit? And for more fast, sharp celebrity breakdowns without the recycled filler, like, comment, and subscribe.